So today I'm going to be patterning and sewing my 1950s inspired Hogwarts Hufflepuff house witch dress. Gosh, that's a mouthful. Ivy is coordinating with me this weekend for a little fun witchy photo shoot. It's going to be quite a tight deadline. She's coming over probably tomorrow or the day after that. So it's going to be a little stressful. I'll do my best to record everything, and I hope you'll enjoy watching me struggle. And let's get to work. The inspiration for this video struck in the usual 21st century way, while scrolling through Instagram. I saw this gorgeous post by Designed by Shia and rushed to text Ivy about it. We both agreed that these pretty Hufflepuff dresses needed to be a thing, and thusly, plans were made. Taking inspiration from various 1950s sewing patterns, I settled on an off-the-shoulder bishop sleeve design. I didn't have a plan yet for how these sleeves would function, but a witch can always rely on a little magic to keep her sleeves up, right? For the skirt, I decided to go with a good old dirndl. Not only is it super simple to make, but as a tried and true Lolita, I cannot resist a bell-shaped skirt. As any witch should, I already have a suitably pointy hat. It is from a Sakizo cosplay I've been procrastinating on. And there goes my dryer. Does anyone else have appliances that sing to them? And voila! Here is the finished design. Anyways, I found a lovely yellow pattern curtain from Target to Scarlett O'Hara into a dress. But ignore that for a second and look at this fabulous chair I found on OfferUp. I think it will work perfectly for our shoot. So to my surprise, this curtain that I bought from Target only came with one panel. So I have about half as much fabric as I thought I would have. And to make this design, I have to make sleeves, and bishop sleeves have gathering at the bottom, which means that they're extra big. So I have to measure the fabric and see if I have enough to actually pull off this design. So I think I'm gonna have just enough fabric to scrape by with the sleeves. I'm gonna do a mock-up first to test it, but we'll see how it goes. I started my muslin mock-up by tracing out the front and back pieces of my pattern. I chose this pattern because it has basic waist darts that fit me well. So I'm going to be altering the neckline a little bit. This is a V-neck and I just need it to be straight across.
I'm getting like flashbacks to con crunches back in my childhood. Ah!
So my arm is quite a bit shorter than the standard size 8 sleeve, so I will be shortening it a couple inches, and then I'm also going to be adding a cuff at the end, so I'll probably be shortening it about like 4 or 5 inches. And here I am ignoring a huge red flag. It looks really short. This is painful. I think I'll have to raise the elbow a little bit as well. So the original width of the sleeve around the wrist is about 9.5 inches, but since I want it to be gathered, I'll be multiplying that by 3 and distributing that along the edge. That's gonna be way too big for the amount of fabric I have, I can already tell, so I'll probably just be doubling it and then hoping that it will be full enough. And then I'm going to be adding just the tiniest bit of extra ease into the top. That way it has kind of like a little bit of gather, but not too much. I don't want to use up too much of the fabric. I don't have to fit the sleeve cap into an arm's eye or anything, so it should be fine. It should. It looks so short. I feel like it's going to be too short. Oh my gosh. Nope, I just have short arms. Okay. just really glorified rectangles. So I'm just gonna pinch one from a shirt pattern I already have. You'll need a placket to finish the edge of the sleeve where it opens up, and then you'll need the actual cuff. You want to mark on your sleeve where you want the placket to be. On this pattern, it's 2 1/4 inches from the longest sleeve point, so the apex to the wrist. It'll end up hitting about right there. So all the pieces are cut, and I'm gonna sew. And if you're wondering why things keep popping up, like my sewing machine, it's because my room is not completely set up yet. And that'll probably be done in another video. I'm about to gather my sleeve and attach it to the cuff. I run 2 lengths of stitches at about 1/4 inch and 3/8 of an inch to fit within my 1/2 inch seam allowance. And I use just the longest stitch setting I have on my machine. I always do 2 threads because ain't nothing worse than when your gathering thread snaps on you in the middle of pinning. Just finger pressing open the seam because I cannot be bothered to go grab my iron. If you have one of these nifty little spaghetti strap making hooks, I like to use those to poke out the corners. I might be bad and not put the placket in. Yeah, I'm not gonna do it. I'm sorry. And here is the sewn sleeve. I didn't bother putting the placket in for this mock-up, but I'll definitely do it for the final. So now I'm going to pin the front and back bodice darts closed. And Ivy just texted me asking me if I'm gonna be ready tomorrow. Maybe I'll crank this out in a day. We'll see. The mock-up goes well. The actual sewing shouldn't take too long, but why? I'm not quite sure how I'm gonna finish the cap yet, the sleeve cap. I'll probably make a elastic channel out of a facing along the sleeve, and then it will attach on the underarm right here. That way.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
The elastic will help keep it snug against my shoulder. How did you get in here? Piper! Took the secret tunnel, huh? Say hi, Coffee. You barked at Ivy last time. She called you a stinker. And this is how the mock-up is fitting. Overall, pretty good. I think that the back needs to be a little bit tighter. It is creating a little bit of looseness around my bust. And the sleeve definitely needs some elastic at the cap to help anchor it down. Also, the length ended up a little bit too short. Even with an extended cuff, I think my cuff is probably only going to be about 3 inches, so I need another inch on the sleeve itself. And I think if I just reduce a little bit of width from the top, there won't be such a looseness here, and it'll help anchor the sleeve in. But yeah, it's looking good. I like where it hits me across the chest. I'll be finishing it with a facing, so I really just need to add maybe like a 1/4 inch for the facing seam allowance. Yeah. Because there's only a few minor adjustments, I'll transfer these lines to paper and make my adjustments on paper, and then I will use that adjusted pattern to cut out my final fabric. I might actually be done by tonight. Perfect. And lastly, I'm going to notch the two so that I don't get them like backwards. backwards when they're cut out. Notches are very helpful when your pieces look almost symmetrical, but they're not. So I have all my pieces cut out. It's time to cut out the final fabric. Oh wait, no. Iron the fabric and then cut it out. So the nicest part about using a curtain is that it's already hemmed. I think I'll be able to use this edge without having to rehem it. Just to quickly explain what's happening with the skirt portion of the dress, I drew what I'm going to be cutting out of the final fabric. The skirt is basically a dirndl, which is a rectangular piece of fabric that is gathered along the waist. So the front panel is going to be these measurements, and that includes a 1/2 inch seam allowance along the side seams and the waist. Because it's a curtain, it's already hemmed, so I'm going to take advantage of that. In theory, you could just make one big rectangle, but the width of my curtain kind of forces me to cut it into 2, and I need to run a center back seam for the zipper. And I want to put in pockets along the side, so putting in side seams makes sense. I just finished cutting out the panels. I just finished cutting out the skirt panels, and I'm going to repeat the same exact thing for the lining. And I'm just using the cheapest lining that I could find in my stash. So I just finished cutting all of the lining pieces, and I think I'm gonna take a quick break, maybe drink some tea, and then I'll get back and cut all the outer pieces, and we'll be almost done. I'd like the stripe of the pattern to match across the sleeves and bodice, so I'm going to take the time to mark out where the pattern will match. Now that I finished cutting out all the pattern pieces, I thought I'd take a moment to just organize my pattern. Here are all my cut pattern pieces ready to be sewn. Sewing is actually the easiest part. The prep is definitely the most time consuming. I just finished my first round of sewing. Armed myself with a cup of pumpkin spice latte. Whew, smells like nutmeg. After top stitching along the placket, I'm just gonna iron it. Next, I will run a gathering stitch along the edge of the sleeve where it connects with the cuff, and I will sew the facing along the insides. Stitch up the seam at 1/4 inch, turn it inside out, then top stitch about 3/8 of an inch on top. So it looks like this. And then I'll just run elastic through that channel. The sleeves are finished. I think the sleeve cap turned out really nice. I'm just gonna gather the sleeve into the cuff, which is right here, and attach the sleeve to the bodice, finish the bodice with the lining, gather the waist of the skirt, and attach the skirt to the bodice, and that should be it. Oh, and install a zipper, but I might do that tomorrow morning. Never ever rush a zipper. That is just asking for a disaster. The sleeves are finished, but they are definitely a little bit too short. I just tried them on, and I think I would have liked them to be at least another inch longer. They are long enough, but because of the design, I wish that there had been a little bit more length, so when this is on my wrist, it would poof up a little bit more at the sides. It's late, I don't know if I'm making any sense, but I'll probably have to piece in some insertion lace or something at some point to help create the illusion of a longer sleeve, but I'm happy with it for now. I'm gonna move on. I just stitched the lining of the bodice to the outer fabric, and I'm just going to press the seam open, turn it around, and understitch it along the edge. Good morning, it's Sunday, and I'm gonna take the extra 5 minutes to baste the seam first because I don't want to worry about the waist not lining up. Now that the zipper is basted along the seam allowance, I can rip open this initial basting I did and then sew the zipper in. So I have a couple of extra hours, and instead of just being done, I think I'm going to add a little panel into the sleeve to give it some extra length. To quickly explain what I'm going to do, I'm going to cut along the sleeve right above the placket and add about 3 inches of a separate panel into the sleeve. And I might pin tuck it so that it looks intentional. Can never go wrong with more pin tucks. Oh, hi, Coffee. You here to pin tuck with me? Well, that about sums up my video. I hope you enjoyed watching. If I were to do anything differently next time, I would definitely change the design of the sleeves. They have been an absolute nightmare to keep up. I think next time I would put the elastic right about here and make it a true off the shoulder. Other than that, I'm pleased with how everything came out. I love having a new Good Witch of the North dress for my wardrobe, and I hope to see you for my next video, whenever that comes out.